change. So I'm going to go over a couple of the college costs just to define some terms for you. One of them is the direct expenses. So these are the charges that will be directly incurred to you as a student to the college. So for example, on here, there's three main ones. Tuition is what you're going to be paying to actually sit in the class and be taught by the professors. So that's the tuition cost. Then you have a couple of fees that would be like an internet fee and any sort of fee for printing, that sort of stuff. Those are in the fees category. And then you have room and board. So if you're staying on campus at your university, this would be the cost that you're paying the school to stay on campus, have a meal plan, and have internet in your dorms and all of that. CIU's costs are listed at the bottom here, but then the variable expenses, which is the next thing to look at, are the ones that can change. So these expenses are not directly incurred by you going to a specific university. These change by student to student. So for example, school supplies. This can change each semester depending on which class you're in and what you would need for that class. So you want to make sure that you budget accordingly for these expenses. The next one would be transportation. So if you're looking at bringing your car to college, you want to be able to make sure that you'll have the money for gas to go places as you want to. And then there's other living expenses such as cookout runs or Chick-fil-A or whatever you want to do. Just go out for a play, something like that. So these variable expenses are completely determined by the student, really. Now, a note on these two, though, the government makes us estimate how much your variable expenses are going to be, and then we include that number with our other number, the big number of what we actually cost, on your financial aid document. The government requires that we do that. It's called the cost of attendance. So when you see the big sticker cost of attendance, it's something like $38,000 for CIU. Know that that's not the direct cost, but that is the direct cost plus the variable cost. So just know that as you're looking at that.
So as we talk about financial aid, we like to kind of break this down into 4 types of aid. So we'll flesh out each of these types of aid as we go, but let's kind of do an overview here. So there's federal aid, which is aid from the federal government, which we'll talk about in just a moment. There's state aid, and this we'll be talking about particularly in regards to South Carolina students who are attending a South Carolina high school. But if you are coming in from out of state, your state may have state opportunities as well, and know that just because, say, you're coming in from out of state but you want to attend CIU, there isn't a different tuition cost. You're not penalized for that. But we will be talking a little bit more about South Carolina state aid today as well. The third type of aid is going to be institutional aid. So what an institution is willing to give, in this case CIU, so we'll be talking a little bit about that. And then the fourth type is outside scholarships. These are huge. These are so helpful for our students. And as you're looking into college, anywhere that you go, these are going to be a really helpful resource for you. So we'll be giving some helpful tips as far as outside scholarships go. But we're going to go ahead and get started with federal aid here. So federal aid all starts with the FAFSA. This is the free application for federal student aid. The keyword here is that it's free. So if you are looking at a FAFSA website, but it's making you pay for the FAFSA, don't continue. The FAFSA is free. You can see the link here, and we'll have someone drop it in the chat as well. But this is something that you and your parents will want to work on together as you're looking forward to financial aid. The FAFSA is how you would be awarded any federal aid, from loans to grants, federal grants. And it pulls from tax information from 2 years prior to the year that you're hoping to attend. So know that the FAFSA is a snapshot in time. Sometimes, especially, we know this past year has been crazy. So sometimes a lot has happened between the time that the FAFSA is capturing to the time that you're attending. So that's why we're going to talk about other aid options as well. But the FAFSA is just a snapshot in time of your family's financial situation, and it allows the federal government to kind of determine how much they think that your family might be able to contribute to your education. A lot of other institutional aid is also calculated by the FAFSA, so it's really important to fill this out. This year's FAFSA is open already. It always opens on October 1st. So if you are a junior, know that you can fill out the FAFSA October 1st of next year. If you're a senior, it's already open. And one more helpful tool that we're going to kind of break down for you today is the IRS data retrieval tool. That is a super helpful tool as far as the FAFSA goes. So basically, it pulls tax information from the IRS website into the FAFSA website if you give it permission. So when we were applying for college, everything had to be hand typed into the FAFSA form, and it took a very long time. So now there's this helpful tool that allows the FAFSA to gain information from the IRS site as far as taxes go. You don't have to do this, but it is a really helpful and quick way to get the FAFSA done. So do feel free to take advantage of that resource.
Yeah, I'll jump into the federal aid options that you have. So the first one on this one is the Pell Grant. This one is completely dependent on what the government determines that you are eligible for. So it's on a need-based scholarship. Basically, you fill out the FAFSA, it pulls all your tax information, hopefully through the data retrieval, and it puts it in there, and then the government determines that this is how much your family can afford to pay for you to go to college. If it's below this amount, then you'd be eligible for Pell. The max of Pell is $6,495. That is a grant, so it's not something that you have to pay back. It is a free one. So that is based off the EFC that comes to us on the FAFSA. Another one is the Supplemental Educational Opportunities Grant. That one is more so for students who are returning to college, who may have difficulty with some of the costs of coming back. So it may not be one that you'd see on your financial aid during your first year, but it is another grant that the government gives to colleges to help students with college. Then we have federal work study. This one is these are jobs on campus that the government pays the school to pay you to work. So it's basically government funded jobs on campus. There are some other jobs on campus as well that aren't government funded if you're not eligible for the federal funds, but these are some as well. And then federal loans. If you have to take out loans, this is something that I know a lot of people are a little bit wary about, the amount of debt that they're going to incur going to college. Know that in general, you're actually maxed on how many loans you can take out in a year. So you're $5,500 your first year, $6,500 your second, and then your last 2 years is $7,500. So if you do the math, that's $27,000 is what you're maxed out at for taking in loans for the whole time of being in college, all 4 years. So as long as you borrow responsibly during that time, that's what you'd end up with. Going on to state aid. So again, this is for South Carolina students. We are in Columbia, South Carolina. So these are the aid options that our students coming from the state are eligible for. South Carolina Tuition Grant. This is another need-based scholarship. It's based again on the EFC, but this is one that goes to private institutions. So CIU being a private Christian university, this is a grant that you may be eligible for. There is a deadline to get this grant. It's June 30th. And to do that, you have to fill out your FAFSA before June 30th to be eligible to receive this grant. So it makes sense to go ahead and fill it out. Don't worry about later on. As of right now, your taxes from 2019 are probably already finished, so you can go ahead and fill out the FAFSA. But yeah, this one does have a deadline, so you do want to get it in earlier for that. Then you have merit-based scholarships. There's the Hope Scholarship, which is $2,800 for a year. To be eligible for this one, you just have to have a 3.0 GPA from high school. This is a one-time scholarship, so you get it your first year, and then you may become eligible to receive the Life Scholarship for subsequent years. So to receive the Life Scholarship continuing off from the Hope, you have to have an average 3.0 GPA in college, as well as an average of 30 credit hours taken in that year, which is 10 classes at CIU. So that's to get the Life going forward. To get it initially, you have to have a 3.0 GPA in high school, an 1100 on the SAT, or a 24 on the ACT, or it being the top 30% of your class. So you have to do two of those three options to receive the Life Scholarship starting off. And then again, you could receive it or you could obtain it following years by doing the 3.0 GPA and having an average of 30 credit hours. Then there's the Palmetto Fellow Scholarship. So this is the top tier of scholarships from the state of South Carolina. This one's a little bit harder to get. It's a slimmer minority that would be able to receive this scholarship. You do have to have, I believe, 3.5 GPA starting out. And then if you're an early acceptance into the Palmetto Fellows program, you can have a 1200 SAT or a 28 ACT. Or if you're in the later acceptances, you have to have a 1400 SAT or a 31 ACT. Now, if you're a homeschooled student, you do have to have those tests to be eligible for both Palmetto Fellows and Life, unless you're part of a homeschool association that has a ranking system. Otherwise, if you're just a homeschool student and you're from a group that doesn't have any ranking system with larger numbers, you do have to go and have the test taken in order to be eligible for those state scholarships. Then institutional aid. So this is something else that you may be eligible for. Everybody, that first one, merit-based scholarship, that is based on your GPA and test scores. This year we're test optional, so it's based solely on the GPA, but following years it'll be test scores again. This one ranges from $3,000 to $12,000 a year, and that is completely based on these criteria. What you get, you'll keep as long as you keep your GPA going forward. And as I mentioned, everybody gets this. So everybody, even starting out, will get the merit-based scholarship wherever you're landing from. The second is athletic scholarship. This is determined by the coach. So you want to, if you're an athlete and you're being recruited to be on the team, you want to speak to the coach about the athletic scholarship and see how much they're awarding you. The scholarship for athletes, it's an either or. So you're either getting athletic scholarship or you're getting other aid from CIU, not including the merit. Merit, you'd get it either way. But you're either going to be an athlete or you're not going to get that scholarship, and you're going to get other aid, which are the ones listed below it. So you want to get in touch with your coach to see how much the athletic scholarship will be compared or added to your merit-based scholarship. Following ones, need-based aid. This is, again, another scholarship based off the EFC, and that is just calculated for your file. It's automatically awarded to you. All these scholarships so far that we've talked about, we automatically award to you. You don't have to apply for any of them. They're going to be automatically added onto your file. The next one isn't, though. So the donor scholarship is typically for returning students to CIU. There is an application to fill out for that one in your spring semester for returning students to receive a donor scholarship, which basically some folks have given us money to give to specific criteria of student, and then we allocate those funds after the application comes in from it. And then we have a church matching grant. This is another one that you would have to do on your end. If your church or a parachurch organization wants to support your education, then we will match up to $1,000 per year that they give towards it. Now, the deadline for this one for the fall, the $500 for the fall, is July 1st. So June 30th for the FAFSA, July 1st for the church matching grant. So you might as well go ahead and do them earlier so you don't have to worry about it later on. But we will match up to 1,000. If they give 100, we'll match 100. If they give 200, match 200. Whatever it is there. Then, as I mentioned before, we do have campus jobs on campus in admissions, with the dining hall, other places. Those are through an app called Handshake that we give you access to once you've become a student, and it runs through the Student Life office. But there are some jobs on campus. Some of them give you scholarships. Others will just be a paycheck that you can use for whatever you want to, spending money, what have you for that. And then we do have, we're going to have somebody drop into the link, the partnership organizations. So this one's just a list of some organizations that we're partnered with, schools, churches. If you're a part of one of these, you would receive a scholarship for being a part of one of those organizations as well.
We have some helpful resources listed here for you. I would suggest taking a screenshot if you want, writing some of these down, but we'll go through a couple of them here. So first of all, I would suggest looking at more local organizations, like civic organizations in your community, in your town or your county. We have a couple ideas listed here, like a Lions Club, maybe a VA organization, anything like that, a Rotary Club. There's nothing wrong with applying for national scholarships, but you are applying against the entire nation. So that's a lot of people. Whereas something that's a little more community oriented, that's kind of closer to home, that's going to be a lot smaller of a pool for you to apply for. And sometimes they have multiple scholarships. So it's a really good opportunity for a student like you to go ahead and start thinking about what organizations you might reach out to, what scholarships might be available there. We also encourage students, like James said, we have a church matching grant. So we would really encourage you to check with your church. Even if you haven't heard of something formally through your church, it's definitely worth checking in with your pastor or a youth leader or the elders or deacons there to see if they would be willing to partner with you to give towards your education. And again, we will match that up to $1,000. You don't have to get the full $1,000. You can get $100 from your church and we would match it. So definitely look into that. And then similarly, we show here that we would love for you to check in with a family member. Now, do this as is appropriate for you and your family. If that's something that, your grandma or your aunt or uncle would like to know about and partner with you on for your education to CIU, check in with them and see if that's something that they would be willing to do. You can consult mom and dad on this, see if that would be appropriate for you and your family, but it's definitely worth checking into. We've listed some other sites here for you as well. Now, our probably biggest advice when you're looking at other sites is to check for free sites and free scholarships. You typically don't want to be paying for a scholarship opportunity that you may or may not get, and there are plenty of free options. So check into some of those as you're looking for scholarships. We also have an outside scholarship list that people at CIU have put together for you to kind of jumpstart that search. So we'll have someone drop that in the chat below so that you can see that, so that you can go ahead and check out some of those options and see what might be a good fit for you. Now we want to just leave you with a couple of pro tips that we have for you as you're thinking about financial aid, which is, first of all, avoid fees and scams. As we've talked about with the FAFSA, it's free, so don't pay for the FAFSA. Be really careful as you're applying for outside scholarships. If you have any questions, check with mom or dad if you're seeing that the scholarship is trying to charge you for anything. So check in first before you pay for anything as far as scholarship opportunities go. And try to use a combination of resources as you're thinking about college. The cost of college can be intimidating, but when you think about all of the different sources of funding that you could receive, that really, really breaks down that cost and can help. And as you're applying for scholarships, if you apply for 1 or 2 every month, for seniors, go ahead and start applying. If you're a junior or a sophomore, start making a list, see what you can already apply for. It's never too early, and you would be surprised at how quickly maybe a $500 scholarship here and a $500 scholarship there starts adding up into thousands of dollars of scholarships for you to make college a really affordable option. We would also encourage you to consider CIU's interest-free financing option. Now, this is something that we as admissions counselors can talk to you about and walk you through as you get to that part of the financial aid and enrollment process. But we do offer that interest-free financing option. So your final bill is split across the course of 2 semesters. You pay semester by semester, and then you can put that cost on a financing plan where you pay month to month. So that makes it a lot more manageable for a lot of people as well. And then lastly, we would encourage you, kind of like we said before, and we want to reiterate it again, to borrow responsibly. Really, as you're thinking about borrowing for college, we're not going to push that on you, and we're not going to say that you shouldn't do it. So that's something between you and your family and the Lord. We would really encourage you to pray about it and seek the Lord, seek your parents' advice and otherwise counsel in your life to see what's appropriate for you and your family and where your convictions are. You don't have to take out the full cost of a loan if you know that you're going to need some loan money, but you don't need that full $5,500 or something like that. You can tailor it to your need. You can take the whole thing if that's appropriate for you and your family. And if your goal is to not take out any loans, we would love to serve as a resource for you as you're looking at outside scholarships and other opportunities as well.
In conclusion, we've just gone over the 4 different types of aid. I hope it was informative for you. If you have questions, though, don't hesitate to reach out to us. These are both of our contact information here on the screen, mine and Rachel's, and then we have the financial aid office directly, as well as the admissions office. We are here to be a resource for you, even if it's just a question about financial aid in general and you're not sure that CIU is where you're going to go. We'd love to help answer those questions for you. But I hope you have a great rest of your day, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, guys.